Welcome to Men Are the Prize, the podcast. It's me, Harvey, your host. What's up? How's the week been? How you been doing? You maintaining? I know you are. You're a strong man. You keeping it straight. You're doing your best. Another great episode. I love talking to people. I love having these conversations. We're going to tweak it a little bit. It's going to be a little bit different today. How I start with today, you know me, stay-at-home dad of four, but I have one, two, three daughters. Obviously my wife. We have a dog that's a female. The cats are female. We are dominated by women. It's estrogen everywhere. I'm swimming through it. Not that it's bad. I love my people. We're good. And since I'm the stay-at-home dad, I have a 17-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old daughter, and a 9-year-old daughter. And two of them are, women, are, ladies who are going through this biological thing that, to be honest, I don't know that much about. And if you're a father, chances are you may not know a lot about. We, in a lot of cases, are in the dark with what our daughters are going through as they grow up. And if we have the benefit of mom, wife there, then she kind of handles these things and maybe we can learn from her. But we should still know. We should still know what our daughters are going through. Our wife has went through that and is still going through in some state. So lucky for me, I was blessed, I think is the right word, to make the acquaintance of my guest this week. And let us introduce her. This is Dr. Carmen, the girl dad coach. What's up? How are you today?
Hello, Brother Harvey. Thank you so much for having me on this amazing platform.
Oh, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I'm so glad to have you here. Let's get to this. I do this pod. I love to talk, but I love a good bio first. Let's open this up. Let's see who we talking to. Who's on the screen today? With a Ph.D. in psychology and expertise in mental wellness and social behavior, Dr. Carmen McNeil-Clinkscales creates a safe environment for compassionate dads to gain the tools to move beyond fears about the essence of their daughter's adolescence, feel confident using their special dad mojo to support her during this important developmental transition, and to have courageous conversations about taboo topics so they can foster a strong, trusting father daughter bond that lasts a lifetime. One paragraph, and you got it all in there. Well done. Um, I love this podcast because I can talk about a range of topics, and fatherhood is a big one for me. But when we talk about father daughter relationship, this is a personal episode for me. So I'm appreciative that I get to talk to you about this. Before we dive in, can I ask, why did you decide to do this? Why did this become your expertise?
Yeah, thank you for this question. So, my professional background is in psychology, and I'm, very, very clear after speaking over the years at various nonprofits, women's organizations, educational institutions. I'm very, very clear that I was put on the planet to empower girls and women. Like, I'm really, really clear about that. And I also know that men are an important part of that equation. They're an important part of that equation. And so, because of that, I said, you know what? It's time to, peel back the onion a little bit or a lot, when it comes to educating dads about how to really protect their daughters, because dads want to protect their daughters, and sometimes don't know how to do that. Like they might do that trying to shelter her, trying to shield her. And that can really, really backfire, because then baby girl doesn't learn how to navigate situations, how to think critically, right? Dads are thinking that, man, my daughter not going to date till she's 30, but that can, really, really backfire and doesn't really empower. So that's how I got into this space.
Excellent. I'm really glad that you said what you said. I'm a father, and I say that a lot. But obviously, I watch TV and movies and shows and hear music and whatever. And at times, it feels like the father is we're being diminished in the relationship of our children. And it feels like in a lot of cases, oh, you don't need a masculine force in the relationship. You don't need a father. Or Mother's Day or Father's Day comes and it's single moms, playing the part of the dad and stuff like that. And for me, and I'm easily triggered by this stuff. I can admit that because I take very seriously the position of father. I am as valuable a parent as mom. So when I see us ignored or excused or just taken out of situations, commercials where the mom is just, changing the baby and there's no dad around, or moms are like, and I'm like, where Pop at? I know moms are amazing. I have an amazing mom. My wife is an amazing one. But it feels at times that we are just kind of, it'll be okay if there's no dad around. And it can be because in some cases dads aren't around, but it seems like we're starting to accept that. And that's just not something for me. So just to say thank you for including us, in fact, in doing what you do by teaching us so that we can be better men to our daughters. So I thank you for
Absolutely.
that. I love that. Okay. So if you have watched this or haven't watched this, if you have, you know how I do. But if you haven't, welcome. You picked a great episode for this to be the first time. Dr. Carmen, we about to go in. We're going in. We're going to talk about this. I'm so excited. For if you haven't, what I do is I take the word prize. Four of the letters in the word prize represent characteristics that I think are good for men. For this conversation, since I don't have a man specifically to talk about, we do have a particular man we're talking about today, and that's a father. So what we're going to do is I'm still going to use the same words, but I'm going to ask Dr. Carmen to answer some questions in can be better father. And you'll see how I answer these questions. So first word is purpose, reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. So this of a good father.
Yes, purpose. Oh, so key. All these words are going to be so key.
Mhm.
But for purpose, one of the things that I have found, and this is with all parents, is that a lot of times, we're so busy trying to, provide a roof over the, kids' heads, trying to clothe these babies, trying to get them to school and to soccer practice and all the stuff that it takes, to be a parent, that a lot of times we don't stop to think about our parenting philosophy and our purpose as a parent. And it's so important, I believe, to take some time for parents to really, really reflect and think about that. Because what that does is when you're very, very clear on your parenting philosophy, when you're very, very clear on your own purpose, then when it comes to parenting, you can create a very clear vision of what you want for your children, a very clear vision of what it is that you want to teach them, before they're out of your house. And so this vision means that when we have that, then we can parent from it. We can parent with the end in mind. We can parent intentionally with whatever characteristics are a part of your vision. But it is so, so important, I think, for parents to really, really spend some time. If you're journaling, listen to music, going for a walk, whatever you do, to really spend some time thinking about your purpose as a parent.
Okay. I like that. All right. Let's get into some fatherhood here. What am I? And obviously you're a professional in this. So what should I be trying? If I have raised my daughter right, what characteristics have I helped improve in my daughter?
Oh, this is a big question. Love this one. Dads are so critical for daughter self-esteem. Boom, basic, right? That is it, and it is huge. Dads are critical for girls developing body positivity, being very, very, accepting of who they are and their bodies and their identity. Dads are critical for helping girls to discern who they allow into their life and who they don't. They're very, very critical for helping daughters problem solve sticky situations. And, when it comes to really, really protecting daughters, dads are like critical when it comes to creating a foundation, creating a culture of safety, so that when she does bump her head or run into some situations, she will seek dad's counsel. She will go to him, go to you to talk when she's, stuck, or maybe she made a mistake, but she needs that safety. And if dads can create that, that is so powerful.
That's good to hear. I- I'm I'm gonna watch this long after we've done recording this because with three daughters of varying ages, it's important. I do my best to parent them, but I think one thing to realize if you are a father of multiple children is that I think you can, and this is just opinion, you can have a parenting philosophy, but I parent each girl a little bit different. And there's a little bit of difference in the personality and the intelligence and a little bit of the attitude when you speak to your kids. How important is it to acknowledge that each child is a little bit different when you
Oh yeah, absolutely important. Cannot stress that enough, because our babies come to the planet with their own temperament, their own personality, and all we're doing is helping them use it for good. Really, that's what we're doing. And so yes, it's absolutely important to recognize that each child is different. Each child may have different motivators. Each child may have different things that set them off. Each child is going to have different interests, different things that they want to explore. They can even have different values, even though they're being raised in the same household. So yes, it's absolutely critical. And so what that emphasizes is that parents need time to get to know their children, to get to know all of these things, and you have to be present in order to do that.
know, presence is so important. And, you know, every one of us is a child of a parent at some point. So I grew up with people in a house as opposed to people present in the house. And there's a distinction. And as a parent, I recognize I could just be here, but I'm in here. I'm in your business. Your business is my business till you break out. And well, you mentioned it. There's a distinct difference. I have a 19-year-old son, but I've got three daughters, and I do my best to parent across the board the same. But I know, like any other father, that I have my biases, that I will treat my girls different. Why do we do
Well, let me ask you a clarifying question.
that?
In what ways do you see that you treat your daughters differently?
I think I don't know if I treat them different, may not even be the right word. Maybe expectations. And it's because I know what's out there. So I think, and it's fathers, that's what it is. And I don't even know if I would even apologize for that. My son, I expect him to be able to handle some business and some stuff. And I should expect the same for my girls, but those are my girls. There's different. That's my boy, that's my son, but that's my girl. And there's gonna be some dude out there who's gonna break her heart, and it's gonna happen. And she's gonna break some guy's heart too. There's gonna be things that happen. But there's a different level of intimacy with my girls than there is with my son. And I treat them the same, and they'll have the same curfew and you be back in time. But I don't know. Maybe I'm not as bad as I might think, but maybe my concerns are worse because I'm
Mm.
more concerned with what happens when one steps out. My son, he should be okay. He's still a black man stepping out. So I have my own separate concerns about that. But I have I'm going to eventually have three black women outside. So when I step out, I'm more concerned about their safety, more concerned about how they handle situations, more concerned about how they deal with conflict, because there's going to be some man who's going to do something stupid. So it may not be treating them the same. It's worrying more. And I feel like I should be like, I taught them well. They know what to do, and I shouldn't be nervous about that. But there is an inherent difference in how I feel about my girls versus how I feel about my son. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's daddyhood. I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah, that is what it is. That is definitely your inherent protective nature. I mean, you know what's out there.
Right.
You've been a young man before. You've been, a male teenager before, so
Right.
you know what's out there. And some of those experiences are feeding your worry. So, what you have experienced in the past, what you have witnessed, what you have talked to other, men about, friends about, your homies about, or what have you, those are some of the things that are actually feeding into your worry. And so, as much as you can have, those conversations, and it sounds like you are, with your daughters, and really going in, not sugarcoating, talking about all taboo topics, which for a lot of dads is really difficult. It makes them uncomfortable to have a conversation with their daughter about sex. Like that, they just not gonna do it. They just cannot, you know because it's really, really hard for them to envision their baby girl, engaging in sexual behavior. Right. There you go. There you go. Take a breath, Brother Harvey. Take a breath, because it is so important to go in, to lean in to those types of things. There's a study out there that says that as girls approach adolescence, they can feel their dads distancing themselves. They can feel their dad, excuse me, their dad's kind of pulling away. That's not the way to go. Excuse me, I'm gonna drink some tea.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Gotta lean in, because pulling away and thinking about her 12-year-old mind, her 12-year-old self, she starts to wonder, like, why is dad pulling away? We used to be so close. We used to be
Mhm.
so tight. We used to be so affectionate. We used to be so loving. And maybe he doesn't love me anymore because I'm maturing. I tell you, when I tell adult women about the work that I do, the first thing they say is, bless you. I wish my dad had that type of support. I wish my dad had that coaching when I was 11. My experience of adolescence would have been so different, because I was out there trying to figure out stuff on my own with my peers who knew nothing either. But
Mhm.
if I had my dad's counsel, if my dad used his special dad mojo that I call, if he used his special dad mojo to lean in and actually initiate these conversations, then I would have had his guidance. He would have been in the back of my mind as I was out there trying to, figure out stuff. So it is just so, so critical.
To me, hearing you talk, a lot of things come into mind. And one thing that kind of resonated with what you just said is a lot of I talk to men, and I created this space purposely for men to talk, because we're really quiet about ourselves, about our emotions, about our issues. But that silence spreads to our family, and then, of course, to our kids. So when I think about it, you hard pressed to find a man to even go to the doctor himself, get that physical once a year. We're black. I'm have a better chance at being a diabetic and hypertension and heart disease and all these problems that I could have, and high cholesterol. But because we as men aren't as vocal as we need to be, we're not vocal with our kids, and especially our daughters. And it spreads, and it's an issue that just it hurts us in so many ways. And I think about it just in terms of the men I talk to about their lives, but it extends to their kids. And it's really just you bringing that up. So how do we fight that as a man? It's not a bad thing. It's I think as a man, for me, I think I've got a wife who went through what we'll talk about in a little while. So she knows this stuff better than I do. M- Maybe I'm out of place about having this conversation. Should I be talking about this? Have a son. I went through this process of becoming a man. I can talk to him, but I don't know what it's like growing up as a girl. should I even be in this conversation? And I think there's a lot of fathers who really feel like they're doing their daughters a favor by stepping back and giving mom more space. So what's your response to
My response is dads need to be a part of that conversation, planting those seeds of self love around her body. So let's just go with what we're talking about. So, dads, yes, need to have conversations with their daughters about periods, about menstruation. They need to lean in. So, one of the problems is that there's, of course, this negative stigma around this normal bodily process that's required for the human species to continue, right?
that?
So we have this stigma, and the stigma gets perpetuated with secrecy and silence. Girls are socialized to keep all of that a secret, especially from boys and men. So the problem, and that's couched in shame. It's shame around their body, shame around that process. And so what happens is that boys grow up into adolescence and into men who don't really understand this daily process. It's something that, folks who menstruate deal with every day. So they don't have really a solid understanding about the experience of it. And because of that, often don't know how to be supportive, don't know what to do, don't know how to be compassionate, right? And so it is so powerful when, let's just say, we have a dad uh, who has a daughter who is 10 years old, and he begins to initiate conversations about the changes that she will experience in the next couple years, right? That is so invaluable to how she feels about herself, to again, to her self-esteem. As a 10-year-old, if my dad, comes and talks to me about these changes, yes, I'm gonna, have breasts. Yes, I'm gonna have, hair in my pubic area and in my armpits. Yes, I'm going to have this menstrual cycle. And if a dad can explain to his daughter why she's having the cycle, this is part of the undereducation, because I'm here to tell you that many moms are not doing this type of education either.
Mm.
But when a dad can explain why she's having the cycle, why the process is occurring, and if a dad understands the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, oh my gosh, he will be able to guide his daughter in taking care of herself. Because the menstrual cycle, all 4 phases, are actually a guide for self care. So not only have we been undereducated about it, we've been miseducated about it. And all of that perpetuates the cycle of ignorance and shame and body negativity. And, I need to do all I can to try to appear sexy like these people on social media and TikTok and Instagram, because I don't have a clear understanding of the value, the power of my body.
Would you be willing to go through the 4 stages with me?
Mhm. Absolutely, let's do
Let's
it.
go. I'm here to learn. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be good. I'm gonna have to listen to this right after. Take some notes. I'm interested. Let's go.
Yes. And, before I do that, earlier we were talking about the vision that we want for our kids, the vision that we want for our daughters. And if part of your vision is to raise, a daughter into a woman who loves herself and accepts herself with all of her assets, all of her faults, all of her wonderful, characteristics, then teaching her about her body is a part of that vision. That's how you get to the end, right? Of that particular vision. So let's go through the 4 phases. And I really like to equate these phases with what I call inner seasons. So we're very, very clear of seasons of the weather, right? Spring, summer, winter, fall. We're very, very clear about that. We know that there's a pattern. We know what it's going to be like in winter. We know what it's going to be like in spring, right? We know all of that because we roll with the pattern. And so the menstrual cycle is very much like that, except it's happening on the inside. So I like to start with the season of winter when I teach about the four phases of the menstrual cycle. So we're in winter now, right? So we all know it's cold. We're bundling up. We wearing sweaters. You know, the nights are really, really long, right? The sunlight is really, really short. It's a time when we want to just kind of cuddle up on the couch, drink some tea, some coffee or what have you, got your fluffy socks on, and just, be kind of inward. Well, winter is equated with the phase of the cycle that most people are familiar with, and that is when a person is actually menstruating or when they are actually bleeding. Okay. One of the things that's also important is for folks who menstruate to track their cycle so that you understand your own patterns. And so when it comes to tracking the cycle, the first day of their period, the first day of winter, is considered day one of the cycle. And so that phase of the cycle, winter, can last 5 days, 7 days, 3 days. It's different for everyone, which is why it's important, particularly for young people, to know what their normal is. And so when they're menstruating, they might feel tired, Magnesium tends to drop in the body. And so a lot of times people will sort of crave chocolate. Um, Chocolate has, dark chocolate that is, lots of magnesium, which is like really, really good for the body. So they might feel tired, they might feel kind of lazy. They're not going to want to be as active necessarily. And so that's a time to sort of do more journaling or reading and that type of thing, spending a little more alone time for reflection. So that's winter. All right. So we know what comes after winter: spring. Spring represents new beginnings. Woohoo! I'm coming out of winter. The flowers are blooming. It's sunnier outside. We have a little more sunshine. And so spring is the time of productivity, to get things done, to, possibly have more things on your calendar than you did, in winter when you were spending more time, by yourself. And so that is spring, right? And again, it varies as far as how long, spring may last. The next phase is summer. We know that summer comes after spring, right? And summer is equated with ovulation. And so ovulation for a grown person, I'm going to say, who is, wanting to get pregnant, that is the time to have sex so that, the egg can be conceived. That's ovulation. But it's bigger than that, because summer is also about manifestation, right? What are your goals? What are the things that you're wanting to get done? Summer increases productivity even more than spring. Really, really busy. The days are longer, in summer. We're out and about, we're moving and grooving, going to lots of activities, in the summertime. And so summer or ovulation is a time of productivity to like really, really get things done, right? And then the last phase is fall or autumn. And so historically speaking, fall or autumn was a time of harvest, of collecting, the good stuff. Well, this is the time to begin to reflect on all the good that has happened during the prior three phases of the cycle, to reflect on your wins, to reflect on your accomplishments. This is also the time to get rid of things that are no longer working for you. Now, some people are familiar with the term or the acronym PMS, premenstrual syndrome. And that definitely has a bad rap. It definitely has a negative sort of stereotype about it. This is that stereotype of, girls and women being bitchy, they got a chip on their shoulder, they not having it, stay away, right, is the stereotype. But let me offer sort of a different perspective or reframe about that. So, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, for many times, not all, but for many times, girls are socialized to not rock the boat, to make sure that everybody is okay, everybody is, doing all right, to the detriment of their own self-care, right? So they're more likely to bite their tongue and not say something if there's been a violation or you stepped over my line, because I've been socialized to avoid conflict and make sure that everybody is cool and okay. Well, during fall, I'm not biting my tongue no more. I'm tired, I've been overlooked. And so during this particular phase, that is the time where their tongue might be short because they've been biting it all the other times, all the other phases of the cycle. And they're like, I'm not biting it anymore. And so that's why this is a phase where it's really important to do what I call declutter. And that means to get rid of toxic people, places, and things that are no longer serving you. It's time to clean house, because those things will tend to come to surface. And if you haven't addressed them, it can be really difficult to address them, during fall. So this is a time to take a look at, being more assertive, not aggressive, but being more assertive during the prior phases, during all the phases, so that it's not such a big issue when you're in fall. And those are the phases.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that. Thanks for that explanation. I appreciate that. Um, is there any, and obviously we as fathers should be involved all the time, but is there any particular phase where maybe we should try to be a bit more involved, a bit more supportive? Is there any time where we should really focus in? Or obviously we should be there all the time, but is there any time where we should be a little bit more daddy-like at a particular time when our daughter is just dealing with life every day?
Yeah, I love this question. So I think, of course, like you said, that dads need to be aware of all of the phases, and they can actually help their daughter to pay attention to her own patterns and which phases that she's in. So I run a workshop called Power to the Period, where I teach girls the phases, and we actually have them make a bracelet that represents each of the phases of the cycle, and they can wear it and communicate to their loved ones what phase that they're in. It is so powerful. So I think dads having a basic understanding of the four phases, and yes, perhaps having some compassion during fall and winter, and encouraging that self-care, knowing what your daughter likes to comfort her. And you know if you're in a romantic relationship with a woman, then that helps her too. That helps your romantic relationship as well, knowing what comforts her. So does she want some tea during that time? Does she want her favorite thing from Starbucks or whatever? Does she want you to draw her a bath during that time? Does she love it when you rub her feet? Or does she just want to be left alone? Does she need another journal because she's been journaling so much, she ran out the pages and she needs another one? And so paying attention to what comforts her, and being sort of like a step ahead, and asking, pretty soon, a couple days or whatever, or it looks like you're in fall right now. What do you need? I've noticed that you tend to like these things. What do you need? That is so powerful, because from the father-daughter relationship, it models for the daughter what type of man to be engaged with when she grows up. It models for her, it sets the standard that, and I'm talking whether it's friendship or romantic partners, or what have you, that these are the types of men I want in my life, who value what it is that I'm going through, who are empathetic, who are compassionate, who are encouraging. That's who I want in my life, not the man that's going to ignore what's happening for me or not ask about it at all. So it's so, so powerful.
I like that answer. Thank you for that. The next letter in the word prize is R, and the word is resilience, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. I want to come at you with this question from a father who is listening to this and has a daughter who is older, is kind of gone through, is going through her changes, and hasn't felt like he's been doing the job, who isn't educated, hasn't really put in the time to learn, and maybe inadvertently has pulled away. How do I get back? What do I do to get into my daughter's life? What steps do I need to take? How do I get better? So just in case this is not my first daughter, my next daughter gets the best of me. Talk to
Yes, I love this question. So, resilience, yes. And so, first of all, that particular dad that you just described, first acknowledge, right, that he stepped back, acknowledge that he wants to possibly do something differently, either with his older daughter and or his younger daughter that's coming along. So just acknowledge the impact. And whatever his truth is, he needs to acknowledge that. So if he feels guilty about it, if he feels sorry about it, if it hurts his heart that he and his daughter aren't as close, like whatever that is, he needs to get clear about that first, get very, very clear about that, and what he would like to see. So this is the self work that would need to occur. And anytime we're dealing with relationships, we got to work on self, right? So acknowledging that first, and what is it that you would like to see? What type of relationship would you like with your daughter? Think about that first, and then dads, be resilient and have that conversation with her. And it can be hard. It can be uncomfortable to admit that, hey, in hindsight, I would have done something a little bit differently. I would have gone about this differently. But again, you're modeling what it is to be human, right? And so having that conversation with her about, how what you wish you had done differently, and you're feeling guilty if that's your truth, having a hurt heart if that's your truth, how it just doesn't feel good if you're not so close with your daughter, sharing all of that in as much detail as possible, along with what you would like to see. I would love to be able um, to talk about, who your friends are, what's happening at work, what you're interested in. Can you teach me something new? I want to know what you're into, right? And so being very, very clear. Now, one of the challenges is that this requires vulnerability. It requires us to be vulnerable to have this type of courageous conversation. But the payoff is so powerful. The payoff is so powerful. Now, if a dad does this, what we've just described, it's also very important that he's not attached to his daughter's response, because what he's doing is sharing his truth. He doesn't have any control over his daughter's response. Now, it might be a reality, particularly that older daughter, that she like, I'm not really feeling you right now. Like, you know, and if that's her truth, if that's where she's at, if that's how she's authentically feeling, then the dad needs to accept that right, right then. It doesn't mean you stop, though. It just means that, hey, let me pat myself on the back because I shared my truth. I shared the mistake that I made. I shared how it's impacting me emotionally. And I shared the positive vision of what it is that I want. So that takes so much courage. So got to pat ourselves, on the back for that. So she might not be ready in that very first conversation, but it doesn't mean that you stop, right? Give us some space, and then there are lots of ways that you can, circle around by asking open-ended questions, asking her to teach you something, asking her to teach you how to make a TikTok video or whatever it is,
Right.
because our young people can teach us so much. And when we allow them to teach us, then it lets us into their world. And then we have an opportunity to really see their resilience, to really see all of their amazing characteristics that we might have been missing. So that would be my response to that.
Love that. Love that. And I've got so many thoughts that are just floating as I hear you talk. And something that we were talking about earlier that's coming to mind now is it's, I think at first I thought that maybe I treat my daughters different, but I don't think it's the case. But what came to mind is that we should really treat, as a father, I can say this, and it sounds harsh when I say it, when I think it, that we should treat our daughters as human. As a father, we place our daughters in a different space, on a pedestal. That is my princess. That's all my stuff. She's good, perfect. She's not going to do all this stuff. She's not going to hold hands with a boy. She's not going to sneak out and kiss a boy. She's not going to do things. We treat them. We put this halo around them, and it occurs to me that we have to fight that urge to put them somewhere where they don't need to be, because in a way we can endanger their growth. It feels like I need to treat my daughter like a human, which means you're gonna want to have sex with somebody. You're gonna be interested in them. You're gonna do some stuff that daddy does not need to know or see or hear about. And it's hard to do that. But as fathers, the more we fight the urge to treat our princesses like a princess and treat our princesses like just that human being that came from us, I think the better we'll be. I'm just picking this stuff up just by talking to you. So thank you for that. Um, I'm going to skip the I. I'm going to go to the next letter. The next letter in prize is Z, and the word is zeal. Enthusiastic devotion. I think for a lot of fathers, our children, we are enthusiastically devoted. We love them, especially if it's a dad and it's his daughter. Maybe it's his first one. And you know how they talk about your daughter's got you wrapped around your finger, and they do. And it's like, that's my child. I'm gonna take care of her. This is all that bad stuff I did before. It's over. This is the only girl that, all this stuff that comes. Give me something. Maybe take a moment to consider this. There are fathers out there who aren't as close to their daughters as they'd like, for whatever reason. They're not close, bad situations in their relationships. Can you think of some relationship to bring about a better relationship we have with the daughter?
Can you repeat that one more time? There was a
No
little
problem.
glitch on my end.
Yeah, I saw that too. Sorry about that. What is something a father can do with his daughter to try to build a relationship with her? Something that is not blatantly obvious, something that might even be minute, something that we wouldn't think would build some intimacy, a better relationship with our daughter. What can you think?
Yes, love this for zeal. Yes, because you're right. I mean, there are so many devoted dads out there who want to be really, really close with their daughters and just, may not know how. They may not have established that foundation.
Right.
So one of the ways that I actually suggest in my Fearless Father Daughter Talks challenge is that you share with your daughter, whatever age your daughter is. So let's just say she's 16. You share with your daughter what your life was like when you were 16.
Okay.
And so it is so powerful. Our kids want to know that we are human. They really, really do. And
Agree.
again, because we're so busy doing the parenting stuff, that we don't show them our humanness. And so it's hard for them to envision us as being 15, as being 16, as not having that frontal lobe fully developed, as, taking risks and, making mistakes and figuring stuff out. So one of the things that I encourage dads to do is spend some time thinking about what your life was like when you were that particular age. What were you trying to figure out? What was difficult? What mistakes did you make? And what would you do differently in hindsight? Because sometimes, our kids don't see the mistakes that we've made. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And so it's hard for them to envision us as going through some of the same things that they are currently going through. And again, this requires vulnerability because building relationships means you got to be vulnerable. And so that's what I would say for zeal, for really, really connecting is sharing who you were at that time.
It's fantastic. And it may be something that as fathers we don't may not think is incredibly important because again, we think the experience as a boy isn't something that our daughters can relate to. But it's not even about being a boy. It's about being and being in that same time frame as them. I was in high school and I don't know, for me, I was, I wasn't popular. Nobody really talked to me. And I went through that same social struggle that they go through where I'm walking down these halls and I don't have a lot of friends. And, I didn't make the basketball team or the football team. And I like this girl and she didn't like me. And there's a humanity that I kind of give to my kids when I say that, which just can't help but make that relationship stronger. When I talk to fathers, I spend a lot of time talking about me and I tell them that I do my best to parent them. And one thing I do is tell them when I mess something up. It's important. Like, listen, I apologize. I think I was upset with you earlier because I thought you did something. You didn't do that. I shouldn't have said that to you. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. I'm sorry. And I feel like when my kids see that we're fallible, it makes it easier for us to parent the relationship. My dad is not perfect. It's okay for me to not be perfect either. So when you talk about self-esteem for our girls, you're right. It's important. If my daddy can do that, I can do that too. It's such a learning experience, just parenting girl, which is why I think the relationship is so important because we're learning with them. And I really have gotten to this point where I've been asking people, do you prefer to teach or do you prefer to learn? Because
Mm.
as a parent, I'm supposed to be a teacher. I'm that teacher. I'm that number one teacher in their life. But I have learned so much from these kids. And so I wonder which one I like more. But what is a characteristic? And obviously you speak to a lot of fathers. What is a characteristic that fathers wouldn't expect, but they learn from their girl?
Mm. Um, well, so many dads have told me that, and this is not a derogatory thing at all. It's actually a great thing. So many dads have told me that their daughters taught them how to be soft, meaning their daughters taught them how to be in touch with their own emotion, other than, anger and da 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 da,
Right.
right? But their daughters taught them how to be in touch with the full range of human emotion, right? Because we know that boys coming up are taught to limit the emotion that you express. Like you're not
Right.
supposed to express fear, doubt, none of that stuff. No crying, none of that is happening, right? You shut
Right.
all that down. Well,
Mhm.
of course that does a disservice because then we're asking boys and men to be less than human. And so many dads have shared with me that with their daughters, though, those daughters so touched their hearts and softened. That's what I mean by soft, right? Really softened their hearts, almost increasing their emotional intelligence, which is so powerful. So, and this is something that they weren't necessarily expecting. It kind of hits them like, whoa, okay, wow.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's what I would say to that.
That's great. And it's true. It really is. And I have this conversation with fathers, especially fathers who have a son and a daughter. And there's a difference in that kind of intimacy. I have a 19-year-old son. That's a big boy who loves hugs, who loves that intimacy. It's like he'll come in the room and it's a hug. And if I don't let go, he'll stay. Like this is it for the day. Like whatever. And I'm getting better, but it still feels weird and it's strange. And it's just and I'm a lot better than that. He's just a hugger. Like I like a hug. But what I've always kind of it felt guilty about is that my 17-year-old daughter could come through and hug me. And it feels like it should be natural. It feels like I'm supposed to hug my girl like that. But my son, it's like, okay, good, strong, good hug. And then we keep it moving and such. And and my son has really worked on me with this because it took me a while to be like, all right, a hug and then let's go. And I'm like, he's no different than his sister. He had a long day. He just wants a hug from his daddy. And it takes time as a father. If I've learned immensely from these kids. And it's definitely true. I don't like the word soft because it sounds, and I know what you mean. You said it's not derogatory, but it is in a way. I'm not soft. I'm just human. I'm just a parent. I am just as comfortable with you as I am with your sister. And because my girl, like these little girls need to be hugged. Like it's like I could fight it. I could be bodybuilder or hard and whatever. But my little baby comes again, and I'm melting in this girl, and it's a really good feeling. So I understand exactly what you're saying about that. And my girls have done that. And so did my son. My son did that too, because that was a change. It felt natural with the girls, but with this boy who's bigger than me, who could just wrap himself and hug me, I'm like, all right, I see this, and it's good. Being a parent is it's a privilege. It's very much a privilege. So the fact that you can help us men get better at it is good. The last letter in the word prize is E, and the word is expectation. A strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. I have a daughter. We never stop raising our kids, but let's just say she's finished high school, she's off to college, and she's off into the world. What should anyone expect from a girl who was raised by a strong dad? Like, what kind of woman am I sending out into the world?
Oh, I love this. Yeah. So you're definitely sending out a woman who loves herself, who respects herself, who knows how to create and adhere to healthy boundaries, which is so important.
So,
Um, in the mental health world, particularly for therapists who work with women, many of them say that one of the root causes of what got that woman into therapy is because she didn't know how to set healthy boundaries and she didn't know how to stick to them. So sending a young woman out into the world who does know how to set healthy boundaries is so powerful, who does know how to be assertive and share her needs and share her wants and share her dislikes and shares, hey, that's a violation. You do it again. Here's the consequence, and and move on. Like that's really, really powerful. So you're sending a young woman into the world who is also, open-minded and still open to learning. A lot of that learning happens when we leave the house. And so, but you're also sending a woman out into the world who still needs your counsel. So the structure of the father-daughter relationship may change some because she's no longer, under your roof, but she still likely needs your counsel. And so, when she reaches out via text or phone call, or she comes over to your house or whatever, really, really be present. Really pay attention to, what she's saying, what she's not saying. Pay attention to her nonverbal behavior because she still needs your counsel. My dad is now in the world of the ancestors, but if he were still here, I would still sit at his feet for counsel. Like I would still do that. Um, so, those are some of the things that you can expect in terms of the type of daughter that you'd be sending out into the world.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I think there's a lot of pride that goes with raising good kids because I always say that I'm sending my agents out. Those are mini little me's, right? And for my girls, I have a 19-year-old son, so it's a little bit of the whole chivalry thing that he saw. I'm opening the door for my wife. Your mom and your sisters go first, or they come in first. And little things like that. It's important that I send out good people. And for my daughters, actually, I know what I want to ask. And I do it my son, how to treat a woman eventually that he may date, court, whatever. I don't know if I've ever taught my girls how to treat a man that they're going to be in a relationship. Is that something that is done, or is that because it feels like I know the rules when it comes to me as a man, how I'm supposed to approach, buy a drink, whatever, talk, date, buy this stuff, all this stuff, because it feels like the courting game is the man doing everything. So I'm expected to treat a woman a specific way. And because I'm a father, I expect my daughter to be treated those ways. But is there the other side of that coin? This is going to put you off the point, but I figure I'd throw that at you anyway.
Absolutely. And I have another clarifying question.
Sure. Mhm.
So how do you feel that men should be treated by women?
What it feels like to me is that right now, men feel like, as a man, it feels like we're very much utility. It feels like I'm taking care of this. I'm taking care of your meal, of your safety, of your house, of everything. All these things that I'm supposed to do as a man. There is there's a definition of masculinity in what we're supposed to do. And for a long time, that's kind of been the way. And then the other side of that is, you have a wife, maybe cook, clean, take care. My question is there those kind of modern definitions for a woman? And is there something that I can teach my daughter?
Absolutely. I love this. And so I think the biggest thing that you could teach your daughters, that dads could teach their daughters when it comes to interacting with men, whether that's romantically or friendship with a cousin or the brother or what have you,
Mhm.
is appreciation, is verbalizing appreciation, is doing little things to express, appreciation, that you see the effort that this brother is, putting it down, right? And whether that's again your dad or your actual brother or a romantic partner. I think that that is so key because a lot of men, like what you just described, a lot of men feel like they don't receive the thanks, right? They're doing all this stuff to put it down and they don't receive that acknowledgement. They don't receive the thank you in so many, in various ways, the nonverbal thank you and the verbal thank you. Like they don't receive that acknowledgement. And from the work that I do with dads, they want it, right? They want to be acknowledged. That builds up their heart, you know? And so I think when it comes to interacting, girls interacting with men, with boys, that showing that appreciation, showing that you see them. I see you, right? I see what you're doing. I see how thoughtful you're being. I see it and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So that's what I would say for that.
I like that. I like that. All right. So thank you for answering the questions in the prize mantra. I appreciate that. Um, trying to think of what. All right. This is kind of, I don't know, maybe a little bit to the side here, but there are single fathers who don't have a female, a woman to come in and be able to help out and answer these questions and help in these kind of situations where a man is not going to feel comfortable. And I think of it, I haven't actually not true. I've had to go. It's funny. We go to the store and we need to pick up some feminine products, and you're walking there, and there's just men just staring at this, like, I don't want to get here or there or what. Is there a way aside from and to be honest, because I asked about single fathers, what you have is some girls who are just as clueless about it as the dad is. So when he's out there for that first time to buy that box of tampons or whatever, is there a way to help a dad out in a moment like that? Like, not like there's a manual, but if you ran into dad like this and he's like, I don't know what to do, have nobody to call, what would you say to father like?
Yeah, I love this. So first of all, Google will save you. So there are actually so many articles out there that are centering fatherhood, that are centering fathers. And there are articles written out there to teach dads about what we call period care products, um, to teach them about it. The great news, which may not feel so great when you go to the store and you don't know what to get, but the great news is that there are so many options.
Right.
And yeah, I'm really, really serious. When you Google or, this is actually in my coaching program, this is actually one of the things that I teach to help dads get closer to their daughters is understanding the various period care products that are out there. You can have that kind of conversation with your daughter. Oh my goodness, you are bonded for life.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
so I would say do a little bit of education before you go to the store if you can. And the
Right.
other thing that is so important is that this time period, when a girl starts menstruating, um, is natural. It's coming. So that means it needs to be on your radar when she's 8.
Mm.
It needs to be on your radar, dads, whether there is a woman in her life or not. It needs to be on your radar earlier. So I have come across so many dads who, when they find out their daughter is wearing a bra or when they find out, she started her period, they're like, what? When did that happen? Like it hits them like a train, like they didn't know it was coming.
Right.
It's coming, dads.
Mm.
So it needs to be on your radar earlier. So you can do that Googling of the various period care products. Start doing it when she's 8 and 9. Stay up on it. By the time she gets to 11, there might be some other changes. Who knows? With the way technology is going with period care products, which is absolutely fantastic. So I just really want to emphasize, whether you're a single dad or not, starting earlier to get ahead of the 8 ball instead of behind it, so that when she arrives at that point, dad, you ready, you got it, you Googled. You may have even looked at some stuff in the store. Maybe you bought a couple things just to, check them out. Like, what is this? In my workshops, I have dads like looking at the stuff. Um, and also, um, taking the leadership if there is not a woman around, which again I want to emphasize that even if there is a woman around, she still not may not be getting educated.
Right.
But taking the leadership, this is the daddy mojo part, right? Taking the leadership to say, hey, baby girl, whatever your term of endearment is for her, these are the things that are out there. Let's look at these. This is how some of these work. And frankly, when you're new at starting your period, you don't know what's going to work for you. It's all trial and error. So when a dad can be there through that learning process, because it is, a learning process and figuring out what's going to work for your body, what's going to work for your lifestyle, when he can be there for her through that learning process, that's the beautiful connection. It is so powerful.
Thank you for that bit of advice. I know that resonated with a lot of fathers. This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for talking about this and really normalizing this subject matter for fathers, for who are fathers like me or who will be fathers soon. And I think you're great no matter what. But if I had met you or spoken to you before I had my daughters, obviously I'd have been in a different path. I'd have been in their lives. I'd have been those icky conversations wouldn't have felt as weird. It would have been just thank you so much for that. How can people find you? Everything that you do, the coaching and all that. Where are you?
Yes. Well, I think there are a few ways, but I think the best way is for folks to join our Empower Teen Daughters Facebook group. Active in there, so many tips in there. You get, pats on the back for, having these courageous conversations. So that Empower Teen Daughters Facebook group is bit.ly/Empower Teen Daughters, and really, really get in there. There's so much training that's happening in there on a regular basis. Sometimes we have summits in there, master classes in there. So that's the way to really get the most of me and really be in the know as far as what's happening. But maybe you like, hey, I'm seeing this and I really got to talk to you, about what's going on. I really want to talk to you one-on-one. Then I offer a free 30-minute, what I call a game planning session. And that is for dads who, want to learn how they're going to develop the knowledge and the skill to have these kind of courageous conversations, because you need both. There's some knowledge, some stuff you got to know, and then there is communication and listening skill that you need as well. So if you want to have that free one-on-one game planning session with me, it happens via Zoom. That's bit.ly/game planning call. So you can get me there, schedule your time. We'll get on Zoom together. I'll hear and I'll listen to you about what you need, what your biggest challenges are, and we'll come up with a plan for you. And then the last way is on my website, which is periodofempowerment.com, periodofempowerment.com. On there, when you go there, you can click on the Dads tab, and you'll see a description of my free Fearless Father-Daughter Talks Masterclass. And so if you want to be in the know about when the next one will be, you can complete the contact page that's at the bottom of that, and let me know that you want to be in the know about when the next one is, to take advantage of that. And then also, when you're at periodofempowerment.com, you can go to my freebie tab. And on the freebie tab, particularly if your daughter has not received any positive education around her menstrual cycle, on that freebie tab, you'll be able to get access to my 5 tips for creating positively powerful periods. And so it'll help you really, really connect with your daughter so that she feels good about her body. So those are some of the ways to stay in contact.
Fantastic. Everything that she mentioned will be in the episode notes. I know I have learned, been touched so much by everything that you said. This was wonderful. A conversation that every father should be lucky to have. And I've been lucky to at least be able to have it and to spread it to the world. Thank you so very much for what you do and for what you did with this. I appreciate your time. It was wonderful, and I'll definitely speak with you again. This is the beginning of a long set of conversations. Um, Thank you again. And I will step away and let's say thank you, Dr. Carmen, for a fantastic conversation. The conversation that's necessary. I know this can be a weird kind of experience. We don't know a lot about this, and we should. And the fact that we don't know about women and their bodies and what they experience, that's a problem. But then when you have girls of your own, not being able to have that experience, that knowledge, it can feel daunting. But it doesn't mean that you let that you don't have to feel that way. Like she said, you can Google it, you can look things up, you can find the Carmen to talk to. Most important to all these fathers out here, it is imperative that you are there. Above anything else, you are there. You are home. You are there for them through whatever struggles, even if you don't know. Your presence is it's good. It's got somebody who's got their back. It's important to be there for our kids, especially our daughters. If you get anything else out of this, is we got to do a better job of treating our girls as human. They're human beings. They go through things, and we need to know we're here to lead them. So let's make sure we know how. And to know how to lead them properly, we need to know about them. So take your time to look into and find out about your daughter, about what they're going through, and be there, be supportive. Don't be like society and just make everything feel negative. Don't fall into that. We're different. We're the main men in their life. Let's make sure we treat them the right way. And we can do that. So finally, to all these fathers out there who are watching, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you were taking notes. Feel free to listen to this over and over again. Get into the episode notes and find Dr. Carmen, because who better to help us with our daughters than a Black woman who knows and leads us in the right direction. You are a wonderful man. You are a father who is there for his daughter or daughter. Whether you're a stepfather, whatever kind of father you are valued, you are special, and you are the prize. I will see you next week.